3,000 years ago, Europe was covered by a vast forest, home to a thriving and diverse ecosystem. Ever since the settlement of man in Europe, the continent's woodlands have been exploited by people. Originally filled with large mammals, including wild boar, lynx, bears, wolves, and bison.
If you go to any managed forest in Poland, in most of the cases there are one or two species of the trees. All of them are of the same age. All of them are of the same height.
Białowieża forest in Poland is rare exception, a surviving part of the vast European-wide primeval forest and covering over 140,000 hectares. Białowieża forest is located on the border between Poland and Belarus. The preserved natural woodland is rich in wildlife and biodiversity, one of the few remaining places where the European woodlands has remained mostly untouched by humans.
Over 100 species of birds. You have insects, fungi. There are like thousands of species of different fungi here.
This forest is pretty unique because it's mostly on very fertile ground. And normally it would be converted into farmland at some point.
Originally protected from logging as a hunting ground for Polish kings and Russian tsars, over time the hunting of the natural predators killed all of the wild wolves, bears and lynx.
So then, like, let's say the rulers were protecting this area, and that's why it was preserved.
Wild bison survived until the First World War, when the forest's last surviving bison was killed.
After the end of the war, there was a very strong effort to save the species. Bisons that were in captivity were collected in Białowieża, and from very few, the whole species was reintroduced here. Bisons aren't forest species. European bison was driven into forests by expansion of humans. Bison is emblematic for Białowieża forest, but actually it may be that if we would allow bisons to choose, they would prefer different habitats.
There are 3 science institutes in a small town of Białowieża. We have this joke that if you throw a stone in Białowieża, you have a very big chance to hit a professor.
Through deforestation, much of Europe's natural landscape was destroyed for agricultural use. Today, the majority of Europe's remaining forests are managed and used for the production of timber. Very few parts of the original natural forest exist today.
Like, what's the most important thing is that we are 100% sure that it's natural, that it's not planted by human beings. It's natural processes that cause this forest to be here.
The structure of the forest is different. So in the typical, let's say, production forest, the trees of course are felled when they reach some optimal age. And here they are allowed to age until they die.
And the scientists also say that it's very important, like the dead wood is very important for the forest. For example, there are many species of saproxylic beetles here, insects, that depend on the dead wood.
In forestry, you plant species that are somehow useful for a timber. And here, the dominant species is a hornbeam. Yeah, we can see hornbeams here. And the hornbeam would be dominant species in most temperate forests. It has a timber of low quality, so it's not treated as a valuable from the point of timber production.
If you look around here, you have like different trees, different species of the trees, different height, different shapes, different age. It's a lot more diverse.
Most importantly, there are many species of insects, of fungi, but also of birds. Like the quality and quantity of dead wood is like crucial for survival. In Białowieża forest we have like all the big mammals in Europe except bears. European bison, we have red deer, we have roe deer, moose or elk.
Spruce bark beetles are capable of killing large numbers of trees, which is part of the natural decaying process, particularly in old forest. Higher temperatures often favor the beetles, and the effects of climate change may increase their threat over time.
Spruces are moving more to the north. They're rather retreating from this part of the world. So the bark beetle is like part of the natural processes causing the retreat of the spruces.
The slow-growing trees of Białowieża have dense and strong wood.
So they were saying, we have to cut the spruces that are infected by the bark beetle, take them out of the forest and burn the bark.
Despite scientists' warnings, foresters start felling trees which have become infected by the spruce bark beetles.
So this was their excuse to fight this bark beetle. Here on the Polish side, only 17% of the forest is a national park. Then there are reserves, natural reserves. One of them is here, for example. And the rest is managed by the state forests. They think that they can do whatever they want in these parts.
In January 2016, the Minister of the Environment for Poland tripled the amount of logging permitted in one of 3 districts managed by the Forest Service.
They came here with harvesters and forwarders, so these machines weighing 20 tons. They were always working in pairs, because one of the machines is logging, cutting the trees, and the other is then gathering them and putting on piles of wood.
Camp for the Forest started last year with the increased logging in Białowieża forest.
Teraz puszczamy materiały filmowe z akcji z wilczej tryby, która jest tutaj, przynajmniej w ścianie lasu, kilometr stąd. To jest bardzo cenny kawałek lasu, dlatego że z jednej strony od wschodu graniczy z Białowieskim Parkiem Narodowym, czyli tą najściślej chronioną częścią Puszczy.
Jesteśmy świadkami.
And this action was exactly here, between national park and natural strict reserve here. Natomiast ta część pomiędzy tymi obszarami chronionymi w żaden sposób została naruszona właśnie przez te wycinki. Jest to wyjątkowo cenny fragment puszczy, dlatego że jest bardzo naturalny, jednak nie został ujęty właśnie jako rezerwat.
Huge machines that brought total destruction not only to the trees but also to the soil here.
So it's from this place, jesteś Halszka, camp action with people from Greenpeace, from 12 countries. So very morning we start together from north and from south, about 60 people.
So we climbed up to this arm, so it was like impossible for them to remove us from the arm.
W związku z tym tam wielokrotnie podchodziliśmy do akcji, wielokrotnie blokowaliśmy maszyny.
Filmuj! Marcin! Marcin!
Co do czego potrzebny? Fotografować! Nie, kurde!
We wanted somehow to show the people something wrong was going on here, so we decided to block this area.
Postawiliśmy, po raz pierwszy w Polsce zostało użyte takie rozwiązanie postawienia trójpada. Yeah, it's a tripod with one person here It's about 9 meters of height. And for forest guards, it's very difficult to take a person from the top. Some group of people was there still 24 hours per day.
We held them for 2 weeks, but unfortunately then it was very violently removed by the state forests, using also police and firefighters. So it's also like not only like an example of the most radical destruction, but also of the struggle to stop it.
On the 20th November 2017, the European Union Court of Justice rules that Poland must immediately cease its active forest management operations in Białowieża forest.
They were logging first with the harvesters and forwarders, and then after the decision of the European Court of Justice, they moved the machines out of the forest and they continued logging by chainsawers. The state forest changed the rhetoric totally. They were saying, we are cutting the trees because we want to assure public safety. We found places where the spruces were cut even 150 meters from the road. The highest tree in Białowieża forest is 22 meters high, and most of the spruces that they were cutting, all of them were less than 40 meters high. And so a tree, it's impossible for a tree that is 40 meters high to like fall on the road. Yeah, if I'm not wrong, this spruce is also dead. Yeah, there are no needles up there. And it was left here, yeah? Just like 5 meters from the road. And the spruces that were like farther away, they're removed. And we were still protesting against it, and finally they stopped. They're only cutting in some places really to assure public safety. You would see huge piles of wood everywhere here. Now most of them were already removed from the forest and sold. And this is like proof that this like logging was not done to protect the nature or to assure public safety, but rather to sell this wood.
Now the major logging operations in Białowieża forest have stopped. Many areas have been left devastated by the damage, and the forest future seems uncertain. While the foresters make excuses to justify their actions, it is clear that Polish law has been broken, with trees more than 100 years old being cut down.
This tree was 120 years old, and it was taken from the place where it was cut down, and it will be sold. So it's a proof that the law was broken here, for sure. Rings of these trees were counted, and it was marked. And this is like only like few, I would say like maybe 10% of the wood that was cut here is left on these piles. Along this road it's like maybe 2 kilometers. There were huge piles of wood everywhere. Around 400 over 100 years old trees that were cut down here, and all of them were taken from the forest and not left until the decomposition, full decomposition. So these foresters say, we logged, yeah, we fought the bark beetle gradation, we had to cut these trees, and now we have to make it nice again. So what they want to do? They want to make plantations like this one. They fence the area and they plant the trees in nice, neat rows. Very often they plant only one species of the trees, and that's how they want to regenerate the forest. And we say no, even if you cut these trees, even if you remove them from the forest, it's another intervention. If you will plant now, you are only making it worse. But here they want to help these trees, so they fence it, so the deers cannot come here and eat. And it's intervention. It's like choice of the humans which trees are to survive.
We are in very nice part of the forest, but it's somehow incomplete. It lacks these old trees. it's only young trees, and of old trees we have only stumps. So it's a sign that this area was cleared, but it wasn't replanted. It was allowed to regenerate itself.
The forest doesn't need our intervention. It will balance itself if we just let it be.
Nature should be like conserved, like protected for the sake of itself, yeah, for its own value, not for the game, not for the timber, but nature itself is allowed to be.